based on the fact that the financial difference between Kandi and Todd entering a relationship.
Even in divorce, I don't think it's right when men be trying to take half of the women.
You don't think he should get anything?
I decided to prenup against my lawyer's advice.
Are these the reasons why you felt so strongly about not dating a bus driver?
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date
if he owns the bus? This would not be a risk I would be willing to take. Based off my personal value system, I'm very old school. I'm very much of the traditional mindset. Now, I'm literally on some fertility drugs. I am preparing for my embryo transfer, doing it solo by choice. So what do I look like? Tethering myself legally, for sure, to a man that I'm out earning. Now, I am extremely fortunate that I was able to secure 2 vials of black sperm for his voice. Because I have an MP3 file of him telling his own life story.
Rivah TV. What's up, guys? It's your girl Rivah, and I'm back again with another video. So this Kandi Burruss and Todd Tucker divorce saga situation has been plastered all over social media. Even recently, Kandi Burruss actually took to social media creating a post, which we'll get into. But I have been covering the story, the tidbits that have been coming out. But if you guys are unaware of the people in which I'm talking about, Kandi Burruss is a singer and songwriter who was a part of the group Escape.
I used to be a member of the group Escape. We had our first hit single when I was 17. We had 3 platinum albums.
Beyond that, she has written records for the likes of Whitney Houston, Destiny's Child. She wrote No Scrubs for TLC.
I started writing songs and have had a very successful career as a songwriter. I've written for everybody from Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, NSYNC, Alicia Keys. The list goes on.
She was also a standing cast member for the Real Housewives franchise, the Atlanta version, in which she met her husband, Todd Tucker, who was a part of the production team on the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Todd and I, we actually met in Africa. Todd works in television production, and it was the last day of the Africa trip. On his birthday, of all days, we talked all night long, and from there, he was like, hey, when we get back to Atlanta, I would love to go out. And we've been going out ever since.
So the 2 of them are going through a divorce after 11 years. They have 2 children together. And, things have kind of been up in the air. People were saying, is it because they have allowed, extra parties into the bedroom?
Curtis 230 said threesomes never work. That's not true. I done had a threesome and it worked just fine.
Do you and Todd currently have threesomes, or is that something that y'all just did early on in y'all relationship, y'all married?
Has it happened in the past 6 months? Yes.
Is it because of financial situations where, she was clearly the breadwinner when the 2 of them got together and, he just didn't want to be with her? He had brought up the fact that recently, as he's currently fighting for primary custody of the children, he also brought up the fact that he felt that he didn't have enough time to review the prenuptial agreement. Ironically enough, they had a Bravo special that filmed the actual prenup signing.
Okay, ready. This is a video recording of the execution of the prenuptial agreement between Kandi Burruss and Todd Tucker. You acknowledge that you had a sufficient amount of time and opportunity to fully consider the prenuptial agreement and to request changes to the prenuptial agreement.
Yes.
So this obviously opened up a whole new can of worms in regards to the conversation. And so Ebony K. Williams sat down with Carlos King, and she actually decided to talk to him about it, basically because of, with her famous conversation that she had in which Iyanla Vanzant asked her if she was willing to date the likes of a bus driver, and she said she wasn't.
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date
if he owns the bus? If he owns it. If he owns the bus.
See, that's a problem. That's a problem.
So based off of that previous comment that she made, based off of, the logistics of this situation with primary custody, probably the fact that it's going to pivot into child support and all that, Carlos King brought her onto his platform so that the 2 of them can have a conversation in regards to her opinion or her standpoint in this situation. So I'm going to go ahead and get into all of the conversation. I'm going to press play, add the clips, and we are going to deep dive in this conversation as I give you guys my thoughts, my feelings, and my opinion on everything in regards to this matter.
You are a woman of means, you are a highly educated woman, and you are a celebrity. Based on the fact that the financial difference between Kandi and Todd entering a relationship, asking for, possible child support alimony, are these the reasons why you felt so strongly about not dating a bus driver.
Now, again, he's explaining why he brought her onto the platform. He brought her onto the platform because he's like, okay, maybe this is why women are avoiding this. And to give you a little background on Carlos King has been a part of the production of, like the Atlanta Housewives, of Love and Hip Hop. So he has, a firsthand view of, the behind the scenes relationships between people because he was there. He was a part of the production team. So he's asking her opinion, like, is this the reason why you said that you want to take a step back and why you wouldn't want to involve certain people? Is this why you don't want to date somebody who's not in your tax bracket? Like, based on what we're seeing right now in the media, is this the reason why you came to that thought process?
Very much a part, not exclusively, but a very real part of why I personally, this is a me decision. Each woman, each man, each person gets to make this decision for themselves. But for me, this would not be a risk I would be willing to take.
And listen, to each their own. She's saying that it's not a risk that she would have been willing to take and that she, is somebody that wouldn't want to be a part of that kind of situation. But it's just ironic because Ebony K. Williams is the same woman with all of her education, with all of her means, with all of the finances that is deciding to, raise a child on her own.
As I sit here with y'all today, I'm literally on some fertility drugs. I am preparing for my embryo transfer in the next few weeks. Now, I'm 40 years old, just turned 40 a couple of weeks ago. Y'all know I've been very transparent about my motherhood journey. I'm doing it solo by choice.
Decided to be a baby mama on her own regard, thinking that she just needs to ex-nate a man out of the equation and she can just raise a child on her own.
Because Black women that have the privilege to embark upon this expensive and oftentimes lengthy process will increasingly decide to forego marriages and partnerships that do not serve us and that are not in our best interest.
So it's ironic, she's like saying like, oh, that wouldn't work for me and this wouldn't work for me. But it's like, but you're also doing something that is perpetuating a cycle that is not healthy for the dynamics of a family.
This would not be a risk I would be willing to take. And that's based on a few things, right, Raindrops? It's based off my personal value system. I'm very old school. I'm very much of the traditional mindset.
Again, how are you traditional? A traditional woman would need a husband, then the kid. A traditional woman would not go outside, go to an office and get, pick a man from a book and decide that that's going to be her baby daddy based off of his credentials on paper. And then financially, just because she's able to, will then raise a child on her own.
And now that bypassing those insufficient relationships does not have to come at the expense of motherhood, well, frankly, it's a whole new world. A world in which Black women are no longer subject to the desperation of being chose. Because now we get to do the choosing.
And listen, guys, I have to call these things out. I don't know. It's just something in me that I have to bring another, opinion to you guys to the forefront so that other women can see different types of thinking. Because a lot of times people forget what a lot of people say. They forget what the track record is. They forget what these people are doing in their own personal lives, and then we'll come to the forefront and be like, yep, that's why I wouldn't date a bus driver. Yep, that's why I wouldn't do this. While simultaneously, you said that you are a traditional woman, but you are creating and procreating by yourself.
Now, I am extremely fortunate that I was able to secure 2 vials of Black sperm from California Cryobank when I embarked on this part of my journey last fall.
That does not make that. I don't see the tradition in that. To me, that seems like the same cycle that we see outside. To me, that's no tax bracket education or not. That is no different than the women that we see outside that go outside, getting into a relationship with a man, become a baby mama and move on. But at least they can call him. At least they know where he at. At least that child will have the opposite identity of themselves and be able to connect with that.
Heard his voice. I have an MP3 file of him telling his own life story, why you felt you wanted to donate. And this was important, his willingness to be contacted when my child turns 18. I think men in this nation, we live in a patriarchy, and I believe that men, despite challenges that they also go through, I think they are put in best position to climb the capitalism ladder of this nation based off of male patriarchal systems.
So here she's saying something, again, that to me don't make no sense. She's saying that basically because of how the system is set up, in the patriarchal system, that men are at this place that they are supposed to be winning, or they have advantage compared to women in this country. And so she's basically saying, like, she doesn't understand how a man that has a strong advantage on how he's able to make income, if he's making less than her, then basically she feels like she's stepping down, or she's backpedaling, or she's doing herself an injustice because, a man is set up and he should be able to, garner a certain amount of certain amount of wealth based off of the patriarchal system that is in place currently.
So what do I look like? Tethering myself legally, for sure, to a man that I'm out earning when the whole system is designed for you to out earn me. So I got a problem with that, and I have no problem saying that. Put it on a t-shirt. It's fine, totally fine with it.
It's just foolish to me. I mean, listen, again, she said that this is her own opinion, right? And again, I don't know her personally. I have any personal connection with her. I never met with her in person, talked to her, whatever. But in regards to her talking points, when I'm, going back and forth against this, it's against her talking point. And with her talking point, it just doesn't really, make any sense to me that she's promoting this and she's so happy about it. And like, yeah, I said what I said. Like, I can get that it can be a disadvantage or whatever the case is based off of certain dynamics that are at play when you are a woman who makes a lot of money. But that's what prenuptial agreements are for. Like, isn't that the same thing that we're talking about? Kandi had in place a prenuptial agreement. And there was so many, like I said in the previous conversation, it's like an ironclad agreement. Based off of all the stuff that she put in there, even he had a problem signing it because of how tight it was.
You understand that you're giving up your rights to periodic alimony, lump sum alimony, alimony in kind, attorney's fees, and expenses of litigation, property settlement, equitable distribution, and community property.
If I were to get sick, it's just get out. It seemed like the document was just so business. It felt like Kandi hadn't even really reviewed it.
What happens is that we have a lot of women perpetuating this narrative and aren't even in the likes of her tax bracket. You say these things on the internet to tell other women that they shouldn't be dating somebody who's making less than them. But in actuality, it's like the women who are feeding into this narrative, they can't buy nothing either. Like, two would be better than one. Two incomes would be better than one. Even if he's making a little bit less than you or a lot less than you, two incomes are always better than one. And it's so ironic because I always see, these women when they have these conversations, it's like, oh, we don't need men. We can do better by ourselves. She can get pregnant on her own. She could raise a child on her own, but you couldn't get pregnant on your own because you needed a man and his precious jewels to be able to get pregnant, because there's no other way that you would be able to have done that.
Check out Reproductive Village. It's a new Black-owned cryobank, and it's designed to help with this shortage of Black sperm. I say go ahead and start looking right now for desirable Black sperm. If you see some sperm that you like, I suggest go ahead and buy at least 2 vials right now. In addition to that, because I have practiced family law, I know what it's like to see Sherry. And I also have relationships with women who have paid child support for their own children. I have relationships with women who have paid spousal support to men for years, to multiple men, some of these women. And they're not all famous.
Now, listen, I like Sherry Shepherd. Okay, I absolutely like Sherry Shepherd. I know what she's gone through in regards to child support.
Yeah, I pay child support. Every day we argued about this. He wanted a baby. I did not want a baby because I have Jeffrey with special needs. I was tired. Right. And he was like, it ain't fair that you have a baby. Do you have a son and I don't have a son? He was like, well, if you don't have my baby, then I said, fine. I didn't pick the surrogate. I didn't pick the donor who had the egg. I didn't pick the gestational carrier. I was not involved.
The child was born. She did not want to, have any kind of connection with him. She signed over her rights.
But when I finally put him out, because I found out he was doing all kinds of stuff, he said, and I said, well, I'll pay you $2,000 a month, $2,500. He was like, no, I want $10,000 a month. For me, like, the baby doesn't know me. I put him out when the baby was 4 months pregnant. Right. But the baby don't know me at all. He doesn't know me at all. We're not biologically connected.
It was her and him that decided that they were going to have that child. She now has to pay child support for that child, as well as maybe alimony or whatever the case is, right? Understandable. I understand that situation's dynamic. There was people like Mary J. Blige. There's people like Wendy Williams. Like, there's a lot of people. But that is the name of the game. How come we don't hear you complaining when men are doing it? We can name way more men that have been blindsided by the system, or that have had to take care of or spend, an insurmountable amount of money towards women and children and families and all the above. We can count, like so many men. And when it comes to that same conversation in regards to women, it's a very small percentage. Very small. Because a lot of times when these women get into relationships, whether they have money or not, they still want some of what you got.
Some of them are accountants. Some of them are CEOs. Some of them are, work in healthcare positions, and that's, again, not a risk I am personally willing to take.
And don't have to, right? Because she said she's not marrying outside of a tax bracket. Now she's a single mom, So it's like where she was, in her career, whatever, boss chick, and she believes that she's deserving of a certain type of man just because of her wealth and her knowledge and all that. Now she a baby mama. So, now somebody is going to have a certain side eye coming into the situation with you. Because they're like, I don't want to have to take care of this child, because if she gets married and that man adopts that child and they divorce, he's not going to have to pay child support for her child. So she would be in that situation like equivalent to the bus driver. Like, for real.
So I want to be clear before anybody thinks anything funny style. I am not calling Todd Tucker a bus driver at all. I believe that Todd was a working individual, that he brought many things to the table, and Kandi made sure we knew that.
100%, 100%. But you are equating him to the bus driver. You're having the same kind of conversation and you're equating him to a bus driver. You're not necessarily calling him that, but you are putting him in the same category as bus driver because of the fact that he makes less money than she does. And because he came into the relationship with less than she had. Have we ever thought, okay, we can use Rihanna, for example. Rihanna is a billionaire status, not millionaire, not thousands, billions with a B. Okay. And Rihanna's, I don't know if that's her husband, if they got married in secret because she refers to him as husband. They have children. She is at a gigantic pay gap between herself and A$AP Rocky. Kandi Burruss, who was well financially off, she was not finding anybody that could tickle her fancy in a relationship. She met the production on the team, got set up with him, and they got married. The women who have the big bucks and the big checks, they understand the value of a relationship with a man and that it is not tied to a dollar amount.
The standards and the criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as women and who they are in the society. I would date a bus driver if he loved driving the bus, if he was a man of integrity, if he was good to his mama, if he treated me well. I would date a bus driver.
Kandi and Todd, it could have worked out. Everything could have gone well. Things could have been great. It didn't. Such is life. But to use that standpoint to try to, again, stand on the soapbox and say, yeah, women shouldn't date men that make less than them and women shouldn't do this, as if the only thing that a man brings to a relationship is finances, is absolutely ridiculous to me. And again, I'm standing here in this conversation, not attacking the person, but standing here saying what I'm saying about the talking point, because I firmly and vehemently, need women to understand a different point of view.
But the discrepancy is undisputed. The financial discrepancy between herself and Todd remains severe. And when there is a severe discrepancy from the man, the woman, whoever it is, this risk of money grab accusations is going to always be at play.
If it's always going to be at play. And I would even go a step further to say it's always going to be at play even if you're with a man to have money. If Ebony K. Williams, just for example, just for the sake of conversation, ended up in a situation with a man who was way more financially well off than she is, and the two of their relationship did not work out, as I said before, and she already have a child, okay? The money grab accusations are going to come up with her just the same. There's no difference. There's no difference. Once either one of you or both of you have some kind of money, the money grab conversation is going to come up, which in my point makes this whole argument null and void, in my personal opinion. In my opinion, I think it's perpetuating this narrative. I think it's furthering the distance between man and woman. I think it's furthering the conversation that women can do bad all by themselves and, should be out here having babies on their own and not waiting on a man and, doing everything on your own page instead of, thinking about the things with you or changing your delusions of grandeur so that you can be on the same page as somebody else. I don't agree with it. I don't, personally. But I'd like to know what you guys think about it in the comment section down below. Are you 100% on her standpoint? You agree with her and what she's saying? Do you have a different talking point or a thought process that I didn't speak on? I want to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And I will see you guys in the next one. Love you.
Rivah TV.